everyone, and welcome to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversations from those who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughn, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer of Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who choose to share their knowledge, their power, and connections. You can join the movement at togetherindigital.com. And today we are tackling one of the most real conversations that we have within our community, which we have a lot of them, but with working moms and how they navigate the brutal chaos of building careers while raising families. And I am really thrilled to welcome Kate Reed. She's a partner at Project 300 who refuses to let anyone say, I am just a stay-at-home mom ever again. Kate's journey from the University of Cincinnati English major to a nonprofit dreamer to marketing powerhouse and agency partner is anything but traditional. After becoming the mom of three, including surprise twins, she faced the challenge so many of us know. How do you balance career ambition with the reality of childcare costs and family needs? What makes Kate's story so compelling isn't just that she figured it out, but she is redefining what having it all actually means. Starting with just a few spare hours contracting with Project 300, she is now a full-time partner helping lead what they call a non-agency agency, which I'm excited to get into and learn more about. One built on flexibility, trust, and the courage to do business differently. Kate proves that women don't have to choose between personal growth and professional ambition. And yes, she is also a 2-time Eras Tour attendee. In fact, we already talked about T Swift, already done, check that box, who can also name almost any Taylor Swift song in 5 notes or less. That sounds like a fun game we can play later because working moms contain multitudes. Welcome to the Power Lounge, Kate. We're thrilled to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. All right. Let's start with that curious phrase I had within your intro and bio, which is never wanting to hear again, I am just a stay-at-home mom. What's behind your passion for changing this narrative?
Yeah, so I don't have a problem with the phrase stay-at-home mom. It is the phrase just a stay-at-home mom.
Yes.
I think that qualifier totally and completely diminishes the immense responsibility that comes with being a stay-at-home mom. There's the physical load of caring for the kids, managing the household, running the errands, doing the yard work. You know, if you're taking care of your kids 24/7, you're in charge of kind of educating them and making sure that they're socialized. And, then there's the mental load that is invisible, but equally, if not more heavy. Yep. There's the doctor's appointments and the dentist visits and the school schedule and the restocking of the necessities because you can't run out of diapers. And, I watched my mom be a stay-at-home mom my entire life. She was the one that got us on the school bus, the one that was there when we got off the bus. She was the one cooking dinner while quizzing us over spelling words. And I never realized how hard of a job all of that is until I did it. Like she was the sole provider for the kids during the working hours of 9 to 5. Yeah. And that is a job. So to say just a stay-at-home mom it's insulting. And it's something that I think needs to change because it is a career. It just doesn't take place within the walls of a company. It takes place within the walls of the household.
I love it. I agree. Yeah. You're the CEO, you're the CFO, you're the CMO, but you're also the admin, and you're the janitor. It is a lot and it is a huge load. And I love that, again, it is one of those things, those modifying words, only, just, feel. I think there used to be, and it probably is still around, a plugin that when you were writing emails, it would identify all of the modifiers that you would place into your language. And it's so surprising at how little credit we give that kind of language, but it really does begin to minimize and marginalize the work that stay-at-home parents do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love it. And kudos to your mama. She did a good job. All right. Take us back to the moment when you became the mom of 3, including those little delightful surprise twins. How did that shift your perspective on what your career could look like?
So I forgot to ask if we can curse on this, so I'll substitute. But, the minute that I found out we were having twins, first of all, I joke. I wanted one kid. My husband wanted two, so we compromised and had three. Which is
I like
how
it.
we ended up here, but it was total disbelief. My husband was grinning ear to ear, and I looked at the ultrasound tech and said, "Shut the fuck up." And I didn't say a word the rest of the appointment.
Yeah.
My training as a project manager immediately kicked in. I don't think I ever truly emotionally processed that I was having twins because I went straight to the logistics.
Yeah.
How do you fit 3 car seats across the back of a Honda Pilot that we bought when we had our first kid? Because it was going to be big enough.
Right.
Do they share a room? Oh my God, we have to get another crib. Like, I immediately started trying to project plan this life that was suddenly different from everything I had been thinking of. And twins, kids in general, but twins quickly showed me that you can't plan everything with tiny humans.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
You're at their mercy.
yeah, it's not a project. The twins came 5 weeks early. So they were preemies. We had a 10-day NICU stay that everything was fine. They were just early. But when you're in it, that's a lot to think about. We had new logistics to figure out of who's going to get Mason from daycare. And Carter, he is 1 minute older than Sadie, and he just had some health problems in his early year. He had a heart murmur. He had plagiocephaly, which just means that his head was shaped a little strange because I'm one person and there were 2 humans in me.
Yeah. You only got so much room in there.
Yeah. He caught strep at age 3 months, and it developed into mastoiditis, which is an infection of the mastoid bone. And so he had a hospital stay that then resulted in physical and occupational therapy and ear tubes. And there was just so much that happened that was absolutely doable. Like, we were able to do it. But the things that we had prioritized when we had just one kid, which was, we're still going to be career oriented, we're just going to be parents doing it, that kind of had to shift. I didn't want to have to figure out how to handle all of the appointments, all of the care, and somehow make up my missed hours. Regardless of whether or not you get your job done when you are working a 9 to 5, the expectation is that they have you for 8 hours a day minimum.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to have to try to figure out, I'm going to be gone 3-4 hours for doctor's appointments, which means at night, my time is no longer mine. It belongs to the company. So in terms of how it shifted my perspective, I realized that the things that I had once valued and thought were really important, titles, promotions, happy hours, being the first one in and the last one out, making a name for myself inside this community outside of my home, those didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, it was my family that was going to matter. And it was a hard realization, but as soon as I made it, it was obvious that it was the right one.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I often joke and say there's no way I could go back to who I was before I had my kids and really kind of explain what you just shared, which, I mean, you still did beautifully, but it is really hard to get. It's like the mental load. I think that's what's the hardest to explain. You can definitely explain like the physical work, labor, sleepless nights to some degree, although we're not usually super transparent about them. We all kind of mask it when we get to the office. We don't say, it's good morning. How are you? It's not, oh my God, I literally got an hour of sleep last night.
Right.
And my nipples hurt because I was feeding and nursing all night.
Yeah.
And now they're swollen and hurting because I'm not nursing because my kid just won't get off me. Like, there's just so much we don't talk about in the realm of parenthood in the workplace. And so I think it is really hard when we don't do that to help those who are maybe not parents or parents yet, really truly understand sort of like that fundamental shift. And it's funny, I mean, you got it twice as hard with, twins coming, but, we have 2. And so my daughter was born first. And then, we decided, second kid. And I remember thinking, After one, I'm like, what's two? After we got one kid, what's a second kid? Right? We
Exactly.
got this. Oh, twice the work. It's twice the
Mhm.
work. Now it's twice the diapers. It's twice
Yep.
what the daycare cost. It's twice the cars. Like everything that you said. But you got it. You got it doubly so. So I can really imagine and empathize with how that really hurt. And then we'll get into this more too, but you already touched a little bit on it, of that idea of like the ideal worker, and oftentimes it's those who are not in caretaker roles, right? We know that like there is wage discrimination for women specifically. It's, I think, somewhere between 4 and 7% per child in the US for women when they have children. However, when it's a guy having kids, we got to give him a raise. He's got a family to support.
Yeah.
Right?
It suddenly like somehow makes you less than.
Mhm.
Whereas I feel like if you really knew what went into it, it should make you more than.
Oh my gosh, I'm so much more efficient with my time, my energy. I can get shit done, like the whole title of this conversation today. Like I never could before. Sometimes I look back and I think, what did I do with my time before I had kids?
Yeah, I look back and I'm like, God, I feel like I should have saved my screen time reports from before kids, because I had to have just lived on my phone, or
Right.
I know that I was reading a lot. I know that I was going to the gym more, but like, and there are women who are still able to do that. And I look at them and I'm just like, you guys are incredible people, because I just like, for me, like those are things that kind of had to go to the wayside. And I have so much respect for moms. We talked about respect for the stay-at-home mom. I have so much respect for the working mom who is in a typical 9 to 5 making it happen, because like it's way harder than it needs to be for them. It is.
Absolutely. And then there's obviously still a ton of stats and reporting out there that shows that while like the balance is coming into play, right, of like households that have like parity in the sense of like parenting skills, caretaking, housework, but still women predominantly. I think it's like 70% still of like the housework and childcare is still on us, not kudos and shout out to the households and to the guys that show up in that. And then I actually know a few stay-at-home dads that have recently made that choice to be like,
That's awesome.
I don't want the career. I want to stay at home. And I'm like, I want to see more men modeling that for other men to make that okay as well, because really either should be good.
Totally.
Let's talk a little bit about Project 300.
Yeah.
So you started contracting with them just a few kind of hours here and there. I'm guessing that was because it's what fit your schedule and what you felt like capacity wise you could do. What gave you that confidence? Because your kids are still young. What gave you that confidence to make the leap? And how did you make the hours that you had count when you are dealing with 2 newborns and another little one?
Yeah. So when this came to be, Mason was 2.5 and the twins were 4 months, 5 months, I think, like very young.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it. I couldn't go back to work. Again, it was that fear of I would literally only be working when I wasn't taking care of the kids. To be clear, let's get this out of the way right away. I was not confident that this would work. It was just something that my husband and I sat down and said, is this possible? And he was like, we'll figure it out. Take a chance. Like, let's do it. Part of it was, and we'll get into this, I think a little bit later, dealing with childcare costs, but that was a big part of it.
Oh, yeah.
So I realized during the extended mat leave, first of all, so the conversation was, could we do this? During extended mat leave, I also realized that I am not a mom who can spend 24/7 with my kids and feel fulfilled and happy.
That's okay.
I know that there's a lot of guilt in saying that out loud. There are people who love like being their kids' people, and amazing. I love that. I am a better mom when I have something of my own to focus on.
100%.
So I needed professional responsibilities. I remembered a friend, Anthony Stamatakos, who started Project 300 during the pandemic. And when he started it, he had said to me, like, hey, if you ever want a side hustle, like, give me a call. Yeah. So I reached out to him and I said, years ago, you asked me if I, ever needed help to reach out to you. so how's that going? And he was like, listen, I can give you maybe 10 hours a week right now.
Yeah.
So my husband and I calculated like what that would be. And we were like, well, we'll try it. We'll see.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. It really started as a fun side thing for me that was meant to be mental stimulation while I was home with my kids and while I was prioritizing Carter's healthcare. That's really what it was. So how did I do it? Worked before the babies, got up while they napped, after everyone went to bed at night. If I had things to do while the babies were up, I probably should have set up a camera and just like recorded it, because I would set them up on their like play gym or, because at that point they were adorable little potatoes who couldn't really move. Like they were just
it's great time. And you just put them somewhere and they can't go. They can't
and
escape.
I would sit on the floor and I would send emails. If I had a call while they were awake, I would go off camera on mute and I would literally dance, do exercise moves, make faces, anything to keep them quiet enough that I could listen and then jot down notes after the call. And it was fun. Like not only was I spending time with my kids, but I was also doing something. As they got older, they would sit on my lap and I would put my laptop on an ottoman and just go to town. But the thing that made it work the best was Anthony made it clear that I was in charge of my own schedule. As long as the work was done, clients were happy, it didn't matter when I did it. And that's what made it doable. And that's what made me want to keep doing it and keep building this thing that we were working on together.
I love it so much. Yeah, I think there's so much more currency than just cash, right? Like, and you said it, like, what, you're a better mom because of it. And I very much feel the same way. Love, love, love my kids. They are my two favorite humans in the whole wide world. And it's just an honor to be able to call them, them mine, and that I'm their mom. But at the same time, like, I couldn't. I have a lot of stay-at-home friends, and I'm like, I so appreciate what you do, because I would absolutely lose my damn mind. But I also think that, I know your kids are still young, and mine are 8 and 11, soon to be 12. What's going to be so cool for you, Kate, is that you're going to bring them along with you on this, and you're modeling something so special for them as like that next generation of what it means to be a mom. And it's going to be so rewarding. I promise you. It really, like, it's cool to see now that my kids are older, even though I've been working all this time, like when you do the daycare drop-offs and they're crying and screaming, you feel so much guilt, right? When you miss a little daycare thing, or you miss an email or a message from the school, it's like, oh, you feel terrible. But then start the moments of where they see what you do and they recognize it, and then they're proud of it, and then they call it out, or you get to bring them along. So like last year I had a little photo shoot thing, and I got to bring the kids. It was in the middle of the summer and I didn't have anywhere to leave them. And I'm like, just come with me. And for them to be able to experience like being on a set and meeting the photographer and learning about like creative and art direction and things like that. Honestly, I've been doing that stuff with my daughter, Clara, since I was still working for agencies. So she's been in sound booths and studios, and she's been on sets for commercials. It's such a cool experience. And I think really because of it too, I see her creativity. She's so entrepreneurial. I have no doubt she's going to have her own business. So what you're modeling for them, even though it feels like chaos right now, it's really going to be, it's going to come back to you. You're going to get all those rewards of hearing and seeing them like looking up to you for all that you're doing. So I love that.
I love that. And it's interesting how quickly kids pick up on how things are different. So I'm lucky my husband does the daycare pickup and drop off because he works right next door to the daycare.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So, I get him out the door in the morning and then he handles that. But our 4-year-old, he already like recognizes that like what mommy and daddy do are different. Like daddy goes into an office and he'll come home and he'll be like, Mom, how was your day? Did you leave the house today or were you in your room? And it's like, he gets it to some extent. And, he'll be like, what did you work on? And I'm like, emails and calls, kid. And he's like, that's cool. Like, so he's already so curious about how mommy and daddy do things differently. And I love the idea that like the two of us are showing them there are different ways to have a career. And look, we're both here for the family as well.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's so great. All right, let's dig into a little bit of Project 300 a little bit more as well.
Yeah.
So you guys call yourself a non-agency agency. I'm curious, how is this a different approach to business enable working parents to thrive compared to maybe traditional agency practices? And is that why you guys call yourself a non-agency agency, or is there some other things behind that?
Yeah. So, you know, first of all, Project 300 started as just project management support. One man show. Anthony handled everything, but he found out kind of as he was becoming ingrained with these other organizations, they would be like, hey, do you have a copywriter? Like, can you recommend a designer? So he realized that there was really a need for additional support, the ability to provide services where an agency who is in the throes of getting things done, I mean, you know, agency life,
Yep.
they didn't have to go out and vet these people. So he started to really build a roster. And what's cool is this roster is made up of people that he and I have both worked with for years throughout our career. So we've vetted them because we've worked with them.
Yeah.
We know their working styles. And because of that, we're able to trust them. I think trust is a big thing because even in an agency or a corporation, there is always a matter of, are you going to get it done? Are you going to juggle it with your other priorities? I know everything that's on your plate. Like, can I trust that you're going to do this? So for us, like, trust is a huge thing. We do not micromanage whatsoever. Deadlines are set. We trust that they'll be met. You know, the established professionals that we work with, they know that we expect autonomous productivity and high quality output. And in exchange for that, we offer extremely competitive pay, true flexibility, no parameters around when the work gets done. I think you can probably attest to, in an agency setting, it can kind of feel like meetings are life. Like you've got the kickoff meeting, the internal review meeting, the client meeting, the, oh my gosh, this is blowing up meeting. And so for us, like we're understanding that a ton of the people we work with, they either have a day job, you know, they are freelancing as a side hustle, or they freelance because they do have families. And they want to have that flexibility. So meetings are really only as needed. We try to solve everything via Slack because time is valuable and we don't want to occupy more of it than absolutely necessary. And then, you know, the other part is we are 100% remote. I think Anthony realized that how and where work gets done really changed with the pandemic. And we changed along with it. Like, we're not going to go back. There is no return to office because if you do it right, the office is just a place where people are corralled to get it done. But you absolutely, with technology today, have the ability to make things 100% remote and deliver high quality stuff. So,
I agree. I mean, the gig economy has grown. I think by the end of this year, it's said to be close to like 40% of the workforce, whether it's like full-time, part-time, side hustle, are doing some type of freelance contract work, especially in this industry specifically. And it's kind of been going that way. And absolutely, having been an agency kid for so many years and just seeing that cyclical, you know, pendulum of like, agency work is like our creative work is out of house, then it's in house, then it's out of house, and then we're going to offshore, and then we're going to downsize. And so like it always kind of felt like we were just off on our own anyways. And the people that I remember working alongside that really seemed to thrive the most were those like very like organized and talented at their craft freelancer contractors that could come and go as they damn well please. So like if they wanted to take the opportunity, they could. If the timing wasn't good for them because of life, because of family, because of other projects, they didn't have to take it. Whereas you're right, like there's that sense of like, I think we have a very unhealthy relationship with work in America. And I think too many of us do put our identities as like the company we work for. And so I think, you know, there's just a lot to even, that's a whole nother rabbit hole, but I really feel like, you know, this sense of, I love what you said. It was, I think you said, autonomous productivity. I love it. It's so true. Like treat people like adults and then watch what they can actually do. Now, I know it's not going to be for everybody, for every job in every situation, but I do think agency models have been broken for a very, very long time and not necessarily moving along with the times. But I mean, clearly you guys are, and it's working out really well.
Yeah.
Love
I
it.
think that like for me, when I was in an agency, one of the things that like Anthony and I say when we're talking to people about hiring Project 300 or hiring me specifically, I do project management support on projects, but I also do operational support, strategy around how to work. And when we're talking to them and they say like, well, what makes you different than another agency? Part of what I do, so not just a project manager, but me, is I am super efficient. I am very, very quick. I am very, very good at what I do. And I
Mhm.
struggled in an agency environment because you had timesheets and you had to have 8 hours a day, and you were encouraged to have more than 8 hours a day
Yeah.
because you are dedicated to this company.
Right.
And it's just like, but if I can get what I'm doing done in 6, then
Yeah.
why isn't
Why
that
not?
time mine?
Yeah.
So, we're also different in that there is no overhead. You are not
Mhm.
paying for me to sit there
Sit there.
eight
Yep.
hours a day. You are paying
Mhm.
for the hours that I am working, and the work that you're going to get is really, really good.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds awful. Like I'm sitting here and I'm like, let me brag about myself. But like, I know what I'm good at. So let me do it. And,
Yeah.
it will serve you better in the long run than paying for someone's week of work.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, I've worked for large conglomerate owned agencies, small independently owned and operated agencies, and I had gone back. I went to a small independent, and then we ended up consulting with my previous agency, which was larger and conglomerate owned. And I remember laughing because we were coming in to basically be a vendor for them, for the
Yeah.
agency. And we had a kickoff meeting, and it was like a big deal. So, like, we took me, my sales guy, and my art director and me. So the three of us. So it was because it was a big deal. It was a big
Yeah.
meeting. We walk into that room, the agency had 10 people in there to
Yeah.
just give us a break for kickoff. And my first thought was like, and I'm pretty sure I probably said out loud, I'm like, this is an expensive meeting.
Yeah. And we're all
No.
programmed to think that way, where you're
Oh my
like,
gosh.
that's your rate, that's your rate, that's your rate. We're
Right.
all in here for an hour. And you're just like, oh my
That's
gosh.
an
And we
expensive
don't do
meeting.
that. Because
Right.
like we don't want meetings if we don't
Right.
have to have them. But
Oh,
two,
I
like,
agree.
let's get the team that we need in place and nothing more.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Work smarter, not harder, folks. I'm definitely with
exactly.
you. I'm absolutely aligned to the Project 300 model and mentality. All right, let's talk about childcare costs because we mentioned that earlier. Many of our listeners struggle with the cost of childcare versus career growth equation. I think, unfortunately, a lot of us listening right now have done that math. How did you navigate that calculation, and what advice do you have for those who are kind of in that mathing moment?
Oh God. So before I made the decision to step away from the agency and join P300, my husband and I did the math on 3 kids in daycare 5 days a week. And with our salaries, which were not paltry, like they are good salaries,
Yeah.
having 3 kids in daycare, we
Mhm.
would clear after all expenses $100 a month. We would
Wow.
have $100 a month of fun money outside of groceries, car
Right.
payments, mortgage. And that was a huge gut punch.
Yeah.
Like the realization that
Mhm.
we would be paying someone else to watch our children
Yep.
so that we could work to make money to pay someone else to
Yep.
watch our children
Hmm.
was just like, no,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
So I don't have an answer because no matter how you look at it, the math
Yeah.
ain't mathing. Like
No.
it's not fair. It's not right. Childcare is way too expensive. Cost of living is too expensive and pay raises don't keep up. But, I don't have a solution. So that's all the negative. But I think it's worth sitting down and kind of reevaluating what career growth means to you.
Hmm.
Is it a promotion? Is it a bonus? Is it additional responsibilities at work? And will those things really help your quality of life, your
Right.
family's quality of life?
Hmm.
Let's be clear. We all love accolades. We all love being able to say, like, I was recognized and this is my new title. But my advice would be take a step back and think about what you want. What does growth mean to you? Because there's
Hmm.
definitely more than one way to get it.
Yeah.
You can stay in the job,
Hmm.
you can clear $100 a month. You can be
Yeah.
banking on that promotion and you can be waiting 3, 4, 5 years for it. And you can feel like you're not getting anything. Or you can say, what do I actually want to do? How do I actually want to grow
Mm-hmm.
as a professional, as a person,
Yeah.
as a mom?
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of change the definition of what
Oh,
it means.
absolutely. I
So,
love it. That's a great way to look at it because, yeah. And again, nothing is really truly forever. I mean, I remember the last day that the last check we paid to daycare. I'm like, we just got a huge promotion, right? We're saving so much money every year. We could buy
yeah.
a whole car now if we wanted.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you, the childcare cost is a lot. But then, like we said earlier, too, yeah, raising kids is expensive. Yes, inflation's out of control. And at the same time, it's like, okay, well, what are some of the things like for us? When I made the shift from agency to business ownership, I took a knock, having a
Yeah.
small mission based business. And, for us, it's really been a matter of looking at how, when, and where we spend our time and money and just being more intentional. And I've actually just found that, actually kind of dialing back. I mean, I grew up in a household where it was my dad who worked and he didn't make a whole lot of money for a long time. And my mom was pretty much stay at home. We lived in a trailer park. Like we barely got by, but I'll tell you, we were so happy. And it
Yeah.
wasn't actually until my dad made more money and got a big promotion that everything kind of started falling apart and things shifted and changed. We moved into a bigger house, but then there was more responsibilities. And it's just like, not to get like too personal or into it, but it's like one of those things that I think too often what you said before is so true. We always think it's that hedonic adaptation, right? We always think that next step up, that pay increase, that promotion, all of that stuff is going to change everything for us. And what you realize is you get there and then you're like, it feels good at the time, but it's that little boost of serotonin and it doesn't actually like continue, right? Then you're always like, what's the next thing? And that's just exhausting, constantly trying to achieve, whereas being more present, being more in line with like your values as a person. I think that's what's so great about you and your story, right? Is that you are working for a company and a business that you are very much values aligned, and that allows you flexibility and autonomy and all the things that you respect. And I think that's what I want to encourage all of our listeners to do is like, it might not show up tomorrow. It might not show up in a month or a year, but you just have to be open to it. And you can't be open to it if you're not aware of it, right? So I think your advice there of saying, be aware of what your values are, what truly matters to you, then that allows that door to kind of open even when you least expect it. At least that's been my experience as well.
No, I agree. And I agree with you that like free kids don't know what things cost, so I'm with you.
No
Like my kids have so much fun when we find a new park and we just go to a park. Like they are so happy to be with mom and dad at a park. And it's like, holy cow, like we don't need to. I mean, we'll eventually plan a trip to Disney because let's be real, like hopefully we'll be able to do that in the future. But like they are so excited to just be with us. And so like the investment for us right now is time.
Yep.
It's
That's
what
what they
time.
want. That's what the kids want, really. Yeah, deep down. That's what they want because they have that whole hedonic adaptation too, right? I've seen it a million times and you're going to get there. Don't worry. I'm sure you are with your 4-year-old where it's like, I want. And then they get that new pair of Nikes and then it's like they've already just kind of like, yeah. And then it's the next thing. So yes, time is something that you just can't. It's not replaceable and you can't get it back. It is our most precious currency.
Exactly.
Love it. All right. So your background spans nonprofit, arts, commercial printing, leadership development, and pediatric healthcare. So you've done a couple different things. I love that you have a diverse past and career path because I think that's important for others to hear and know that like no career path is like linear.
Right.
So I'm curious, how has this diverse experience shaped your approach and how has it helped you kind of work through reinvention when you get things like surprise twins?
Yeah. So, basically, upon graduation, I pretty much reinvented myself every year or every 18 months. I had no idea what I wanted to do upon, graduating high school. Both of my parents went to college for things that they thought other people wanted them to do, and then changed their degrees. So it was very important to them that I do something that I love. Like that was their statement was, if you're going to go to college, do something you love. And I was like, well, I really love to read. And my dad was like, ooh, maybe you took this a step too far. What do you mean by that? And I said, I'm going to study English lit. And he was like, okay, but what are you going to do with that upon graduation? I was like, oh no, I'll figure it out. I got 4 years to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So I went to college and I read books and I wrote papers and loved it.
Yeah.
And, it came time to find a job, and I applied to anything and everything in Cincinnati, and I landed at Cincinnati Opera. So that is the nonprofit arts in public relations and marketing, because I thought, I'm good at writing. I bet I can do that.
Yeah.
So that was my start, and I loved it. But I felt like it wasn't really my calling. So I stayed there for a year, and I took a job with Consolidated Graphics in commercial printing, because I come from a family of graphic designers and printers. So figured I could lean on them when I needed it. Otherwise, I would figure it out. That job had a huge project management, account management portion to it. So I definitely kind of found my first blush with project management there. And it actually led me to make an impromptu move to their corporate headquarters in Houston in my early 20s, where I was placed in charge of their leadership development program. In that case, I was like, I'm pretty good at figuring out how to get from point A to point B. I love listening to people. I'm an empath. I love helping people. I bet I can help people reach their goals. So this whole time, I'm making this career journey that I didn't plan. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was smart enough to figure it out. And I was gathering the tools that I would need later on in life that I didn't even realize I would need. Pediatric healthcare, I stepped back into marketing for a pediatric urgent care. And they thought I had a design background as well. And I was like, I know graphic designers, they can help me. And I ended up designing all of their marketing materials, and I made a car wrap. Like, I did a design to wrap a car. And so then it came time, I realized I was ready to leave Houston, and I was like, project management kind of feels like it takes in all of this. I can now take the knowledge that I've gathered over these past, God, I think at that point it was 5 years. It was only 5 years that I did all of that. And I was like, this is definitely doable. And an agency is where I ended up for that, which I loved because I had the commercial printing background. I had the graphics background. I had the marketing background. And the point of all of this is I didn't say no. I didn't say I can't do that. I followed what interested me at the time. And those things were the answer to what I needed right then. They weren't what I needed down the road or now, but doing those things allowed me to grow in my career. There is no wrong answer when you're reinventing yourself. You can always change your mind and say, ooh, that was a step in the wrong direction, but I'm just going to turn here and see what happens. Houston, for me, wrong direction. That was way to go, early 20s, Kate. But
you did it.
I got out and I figured out it led me to realize I want to be in Cincinnati. I want my home to be here. So I think the real key to reinvention is the ability to say, I'm going to try it on. If it fits, wow, look what I did. If it doesn't fit, I gathered all these tools that are going to help me later.
I love it. It reminds me of my favorite Nelson Mandela quote, which is, I never lose. I only win or I learn something.
Oh, I love that. I've never heard that.
Isn't that good?
That's
all the time to my kids and to myself. And I love it. You're right. It's like reinvention is like that practice of trying on new things that maybe feel uncomfortable at first and seeing if it is a fit. And I love how you are unashamed and unabashed about like your cumulative and transferable skills, because I think so many women, we always hear the stats of like women don't apply for jobs unless they're like 100% qualified or 110% qualified versus like men who are more likely to apply when they're 60% qualified. And it's because there's so many skills about like everything you kind of just said: communications, leadership, project management, organization, operations, like that we kind of, I think women in general by nature are kind of conditioned to do and to be. that we don't really give ourselves credit to think about those as being skills that are cumulative and or transferable. And I just love that you're like, well, I know people that know how to do this. So if I don't know, I can at least lean on them. I love that as well. I think that's a
Yeah.
great way to like borrow that sense of feeling knowledgeable. And I also love your go with the flow mentality with your career path. And I will 100% agree with you. Like I wouldn't be sitting and doing what I'm doing today if it wasn't for kind of just going with the flow of what was my, like what your parents said. So again, kudos to your parents. I know it's already like saying like, I think they sound like they're so amazing. So hi, mom and dad. But like the fact that, they were encouraging you guys to just explore and try it on and, do that, I think probably helped you have the right mindset going into the career world. Because when we're having conversations, like we have the last couple episodes talking about AI and the shifting and the changing of digital marketing and advertising, like you have to have a go with the flow mindset when it comes to all these things. Otherwise it can get very daunting very fast.
Yeah. And, to kind of apply the phrase, it takes a village from motherhood, like, is there any reason why it can't take a village for your career? Like,
Absolutely.
I think that's part of the reason we've had such success with Project 300 is we are so open to being like, Anthony and I always say we are so open to being like, we are experts in this. I understand the words that you're saying. I'm not sure I understand what they mean. Have you met? And we bring in an expert because we know what we know and we know what we don't know. And building that community, building that village in every aspect of your life is only going to make your life and your experiences so much richer for you and the people you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely agree. I love it. I know, would you say that that's kind of how you guys, and if there's other examples you have, I'd love to hear them, like how you're doing business differently. Like what does the day-to-day look like? And how does that flexibility show up in your work and then even in your life?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of flexibility, have you heard of Maycember? Because this was the first year that I have heard of Maycember, where basically for people who aren't parents, the month of May is December without all the gifts. All of the events, all of the happenings are happening. And so for example, for the first 3 weeks of May, I had a Mother's Day breakfast. I had a pre-K prom, which was adorable, by the way. I had parent-teacher conferences for 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds.
Yep.
We had an end-of-year party that parents were invited to attend, which you don't want to be the parent that doesn't show up to that.
Right.
We had the Spring Fling concert. We had a tumbling ceremony. That was just my schedule. Anthony had field day for his kids. He had his son's birthday. And because we're able to work differently and because we are really family comes first and everything that we do is for the family, we were able to say, I'm going to be out from 2 to 5 today. And, I need you to cover or check emails. I'm going to be out for this. And we were able to not only rely on each other, but there's that trust that we have in the other people. There's the trust that we have in our village and our community, where I was able to say, if you need something, text me, but I'm not going to be online. Yeah. And you know what? No one texted me because they all have
saving lives.
Right.
As long as everybody's competent, it's fine.
Right. Everybody knew what they needed to do and everybody knew how to do it. And it's just amazing. It is such a shift from that corporate mindset where you would be like, I'll be taking calls in the car up until I get there. And then I'm going to be offline for an hour and then I'll be back online and I'll be online tonight if you need me. And, just having that ability, Friday afternoons, everybody knows that likely not working. It's when I run my errands so that weekends can be dedicated to the kids.
Right.
A really cool thing that Anthony is able to do with this is he takes his whole family to Greece every summer for a month. His parents are from Greece. And so he packs up the entire family and they go and see their extended family.
That's wonderful.
That's huge to be able to do that and to have that flexibility. And that's something that is irreplaceable and you can't put a dollar sign on that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. I love it. I love it so much. And we are so going to borrow your headline for Together Digital. Your career takes a village. I think that's exactly what the community in general can do for
Yeah.
you. And, and it can transcend like any job, although it's so good to have a company that has those, again, values alignments and all that. It's just such a dream. You're probably going to get a lot of people reaching out to you after this to talk to you guys about Project 300. So just be ready. We have a lot of freelancers, contractors, things
Yeah.
like that within Together Digital, but it is so true. And I think, between both motherhood and being a working parent, we often think that we have to do it all and we have to do it all alone. And it's just so not the case. Like so many of us are in that same boat and in an age where we're having to combat a lot of perceived isolation that like literally has a toll on our physical and mental state. It's so important now than ever to recognize and realize it really truly does take a village for even not just for raising your kids, but for yourself and your career. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to have a couple more questions and then we'll jump into the fun little power round. But I want to let our listening audience know that they can definitely chime in with the question. I know there's been some nice comments and people agreeing with the conversations and tips and advice you've been sharing, Kate. But if you have questions for Kate in particular, pop them in there and I will make sure we get them asked before we wrap things up. All right, let's talk about the thing that, all moms feel, which is a sense of guilt and judgment. How do you handle the internal and external voices that question your choices, if there's any that do?
Yeah, I haven't had any like direct criticism. Luckily, I've got myself surrounded by my village. It's
Good.
made up of my husband, who, is one of the good ones that helps split the,
Yeah.
household requirements. He's the chef. I don't
Yeah.
cook, so that's really, really nice. I've got my family. You've mentioned my mom and my dad. Truly incredible. I talk to them every single day.
Yeah.
And just their support has done wonders for giving me the confidence to do what I do.
Yeah.
I surround myself with friends from all different backgrounds. I've got friends with kids. I've got friends without kids.
Yep.
I've got friends who are married, some who are single. And the ability to just hear and share with people from all different family backgrounds is huge because it gives you a different perspective on things. And it lets you know that like what you're doing matters. Anthony and his wife are great. They are huge supporters of me and we are of them, vice versa. And then, for those days when it's really, really hard, I have my therapist because let's be clear, like I am a huge supporter of prioritizing your mental health and, couldn't do it without her. So
that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. And, I tell myself, you're doing your best. Nobody has it all figured out, and that's okay. We're not supposed to. It'd be really boring if we did have it all figured out. On days when it feels impossible or I feel like I'm not doing enough or those voices are making me doubt the value I bring to the table. I repeat the mantra, which I read in a book late last year for the first time, which is you do not yield. You do not give in to the demons that make you question your worth. You don't doubt your skill set and your abilities. And sometimes it's all about just getting through today and starting again tomorrow. So
fresh new day. I love it. That's fantastic advice. And I agree. Find that support system, for all those internal and external things. I think that's a great antidote to the mom guilt. We have a Slack channel on our Together Digital Slack that is for parents. And actually, members, if you're listening, go in and vote because we're going to have a peer group and it's going to happen in the next week. And we want to make sure we have a good time for everybody as best we can. But I think in those moments and being in a room with other working parents, it brings up, it allows for the vulnerability, right? So that you can have with your husband and your friends, again, all walks of life, which is also great in perspectives. But sometimes also just having those peers around you to kind of know that you're not alone and that maybe if they're like a half step ahead of you, they can give some advice. Or if you just need to vent, we've got like the all caps screaming social yelling channel where you can just
I love that.
But it's been really fun to kind of see like all of our working parents, like, leverage the group to really work through some things that they probably would have had to figure out on their own. And even if the group's not giving them the solution, just having that solidarity is like everything. So I think that's such an important aspect, and a good piece of advice is to really find your community. Like you said, it takes that village, and to kind of combat that sense of guilt or judgment, really just finding other peers around you that are going through the same things is going to help with a lot of that.
Yeah.
All right. So you have definitely proven that career growth doesn't have to follow traditional timelines. What mindset shifts were critical for you in redefining what success looked like for you and on your own terms?
Yeah. So I kind of realized that the only people who really care about titles are those who are in your office,
Yeah.
those who are in your direct orbit, because once you step outside those doors, nobody knows the difference between a senior manager and a supervisor and a director. And it may matter in there, but even on your resume, it's not going to make that big of a difference. So, once you let go of titles, you are able to focus on what you really, really love doing. I started to question, do I enjoy managing other people? Like, do I like taking on extra roles without extra pay? Or in my case, do I genuinely like doing project management work? Like, do I like doing the timelines and the organization and the operational support and the building of the teams and the check-ins and the working through the issues? These are things that if I had stayed in a typical agency would be considered beneath my level that I would be at. And so once I identified, like, no, I love doing this work.
Mm-hmm.
And you are able to say, I'm not going to let what other people define as success make me strive for things that don't serve me.
Yes.
That was the big part of it. I can be successful as a project manager, with project manager being my title, without feeling like I'm falling behind because I don't have a senior project manager in front of that.
I mean, they're not going to put your title on your headstone. I mean, I guess you could request it, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to. So it's like one of those things we do. We hold on so tight to it. And I was the title chaser at one point, right? We all kind of,
we all were.
We all have that phase and moment in life. But then I learned, I think, being called mom, one of my favorite titles, hearing that. And then I also started coaching soccer for my daughter's team when she was about 7 or 8. And so when the girls, I'm doing school pickup, they see me, they're like, hey, coach, that's my favorite title. Hi, coach. And I'm just like, even years after it might have not coached them for 2 or 3 years, and they still see me and they still call. And I'm like, that's what those are the kind of feels that I would have liked to have had when I got my creative director title, finally. I was like, I did it.
Yeah. Because again, it's that boost of serotonin where you're like, yes, I did it. And then you're like, whoa, I'm responsible for what now? And the things that I loved doing that got me here, I no longer get to do. What am I doing?
100%. I love that perspective. Such good advice. All right. For working moms aspiring, or for working moms or aspiring working moms in our community, in our listener group here, what is the most important permission you want to give them today?
Take that chance. Quit the job that doesn't serve you. Do something that you've wanted to do, but you're not sure of it, because nothing is permanent. Yep. If you take the leap and you land on your face, you can kind of take some time to grieve those results and what happened, but then you still keep moving forward. You can always make another shift until you find what works for you. I think the mentality of find a job you love and stay there until you die is no more. I mean, we don't have pensions anymore. Like, we're not working for 50 years for the same company. Mm-hmm. And so don't be afraid to say, like, this isn't what I want to do anymore.
Right. Yeah. And then you're modeling something so good for your kids, right?
Exactly. And, the other thing I want to say is, just because you're a mom doesn't mean you're no longer you.
Yeah.
It took me, Mason, it will be 5 in October. I really struggled with the shift from me to mom, but I have since kind of ended up back to where I am now able to focus on who I was before kids and find a way to incorporate that identity into who I am now.
Yeah.
And that's really, really cool.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. That plus mom, it's just like, it's the addition of, right? It's the building of your character and refinement of who you are. Because I tell you what, kids will tell you, they'll bring it all out, the good, the bad, right? They test
Yep.
all the things, and I think it's great. It really does shape you into someone not completely different, but definitely somebody new. And I love your advice of taking the leap. I am always saying confidence comes after the action, right? Everything is scary the first time you do it, and then after that, it becomes easier and easier, right?
Yeah.
So I often have to remind myself of that too, when either opportunities or decisions come about, and I'm just like, analysis paralysis. It's like, no, like I need to just listen to my gut, do the
Yeah.
thing, make the jump, and then know that confidence will come after I've somehow figured it out.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, we had one question from the listening audience, so I'm going to pop over into the chat. Kelsey wants to know, what has been your proudest moment since becoming partner at P300?
Oh, gosh, just the fact that like I did it, right? Like I'm still doing it. Like I don't think I'll ever feel like I arrived, but like I went from having these two itty bitty babies on the floor while I just sat there with them and with 5 hours a week, like you said, it's not overnight success, but all three kids are now in daycare.
Yeah.
Because we are able to afford it, which is something we're able to do. And I'm doing it. I'm doing what I love to do.
Yeah.
And I think I don't have that dread when I wake up that I have to go to work.
Yeah. That's important.
That's really
you shouldn't be
cool.
sitting in the parking lot crying before you go into the office, friends.
Or at lunch, or
right? Or on the way home. I used to like vent I would call my husband and be like, I don't even need you to talk to me. I'm just gonna like verbally like vomit all over you because I'm just so stressed out. Yeah. And then I look back on that days and I was like, oh, God love you for just sitting and listening to all of that. All right. Steph wants to know, Kate, how do you carve out space for yourself, work from home with your kids? Because that is a lot. Like when you love your people, but also kind of need to hide from them and everyone for a minute.
Yeah. So
great question.
Matt and I are really good about this. Like, we both are really good at just like, Matt's my husband. I don't know that I said his name before, but, we're really good at looking at each other and just being like, I'm going to explode if I don't. And, the kids know they're getting used to it where like, we just say, I'm going to step outside for a minute.
Yeah.
It's important to show them that you're allowed to take a step back if you're feeling overstimulated and overwhelmed. And are we perfect at it? God, absolutely not. But like, I try to go outside versus in a closet because, fresh air, sun, they do wonders for you. But, we take 5 minutes and it's good. I also am notoriously a bedtime procrastinator where kids are in bed, husband goes to bed, and I'm like, I'm going to read for an hour because it's my time and nobody's talking. And, that can be good or bad, but it works. So.
Well, I promise you, it's going to get better as they get older and become more self-sufficient. And then you can be more deliberate and intentional about those things. But I am super protective of my time, and it's one of those things that it's like you said earlier, if I am not at my best, whether it's work affecting me, my own mental health, or like the lack of just being out and exercise, the things that I need, like I'm not going to be showing up as the best possible parent for them. And so it's one of those things, like I know like dads feel it too, right? Like my husband a lot of times will be like, I guess I should go to the gym, but I don't want to be away from you guys. So like, it's funny. He goes at like 9 o'clock at night because he's a night owl and I'm up at 5 a.m. and going. So like that works for us, right? Yeah. We got the morning and then the night owl and then somebody's home with the kids. But now they're getting to that point where it's like, can we leave them home alone for an hour and go to the gym together? It's coming, Kate, it's coming. Oh my gosh. So yeah, there's just a lot. And it's not really in anything big, honestly. I think the best are those small stolen moments for yourself and like really being intentional about doing those and just getting into the habit of it now, especially even while the kids are little. It's going to be so much easier when they get older. And again, like you're modeling something fantastic for them.
Well, thank you.
All right. Let's see if we got a couple seconds here. Unless we have any other questions, don't be shy. You can definitely pop them in. I'm going to ask you a couple of our power round questions.
Yeah.
All right. This is kind of a nice little dovetail from Steph's question. What is your go-to strategy when you have 20 minutes to get something important done?
I was joking with my husband before this. I said, can I say that I'm pretty sure I have undiagnosed ADHD and this is the only way I work?
Yeah.
But
That's all of us.
No, I honestly, phone has to go in the other room. Otherwise, I'm just like immediately like, what's on my screen?
Yeah.
Non-important windows on the computer maximized, go, no distractions. And it's amazing what you're able to get done in that amount of time.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Pomodoro method.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So all of our productivity nerds, project manager types, like 25 minutes is a great time to focus and get anything done. Turn off all of the distractions, set a timer, ideally like not digital. Like that's why it's called Pomodoro. It's like this little tomato timer they would use. Set one of those and just focus. And I tell you what, like you get so much more done. I think that's one thing I miss the in-office experience and environment and people, but I love my ability to focus more on things and not get interrupted when I'm working from home. So it's definitely a balance. I like my background noise in coffee shops, but
exactly.
All right, we can't leave without asking a T Swift question. Taylor Swift song that best describes your working mom life.
You mean besides "Look What You Made Me Do"?
I like it.
I would say probably "Bejeweled." It's a fun bop. It feels empowering. I left my old job that wasn't serving me anymore, but that doesn't mean that I can't still command a room and light it up when I walk into it.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it there. Kate, thank you so much for coming on and just being vulnerable and sharing all of your experience. I know it's going to be really helpful and inspiring to a lot of our listeners, so we appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Good. So much. I love it that you all have joined us today. Thank you to all of our live listeners for joining us and asking your questions and making some great comments. We hope to see you guys soon. Check out the podcast. It's on all streaming channels as well as YouTube. So make sure that you check it out and subscribe. If not, we hope to see you soon in the next coming episode. Till then, keep asking, keep giving, and keep growing.
Produced by Heartcast Media.